Today I have Chris Cotter. Chris Cotter is one of English for IT teachers. Chris Cotter is also my friend. He used to work in corporate America, so that's why he is one of my favorite experts on business English. And moreover, Chris is one of my favorite experts. Actually, Chris is my favorite expert on idioms. Yeah. Hi, Chris.
I'm the idiom master.
Yeah, idiom master. So Chris, where are you based now?
Los Angeles.
Oh, nice. How is LA these
The
days?
weather is pretty awesome, actually. It's very easy to do things outside, even though we have semi-quarantine still at this point.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. You guys are I think your lockdown is much more severe than here in Ukraine. As far as I can tell, everything is open here. So
Good
it's
for
a
you.
good time to be here. Yeah, it's a good time to be here. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your business career. So you used to work as a finance manager.
I've worked in a few different businesses, a commercial bank. Later, I actually worked in the art auction business, and then I worked at a startup.
Oh,
And
wow. Very good. What kind
yeah,
of startup?
it was an art-related startup.
Okay. Very cool.
And then after that, I went to work for a pharmaceutical company, a really big one. And I worked there for many years and I was promoted a few times.
Very cool. So basically you have experience working for both big companies, like more of a corporate world, and
Hmm.
startups.
Yes.
So this is where our community comes from. Yes, some people from English for IT community, they work for bigger companies, I mean tech companies, and some work for smaller companies or startups. So we are talking today about communication in business. Yeah, communication in business world. So can you say that there is a difference how people communicate when like you work for a startup and when you work in like bigger corporations in the States?
Sure. Obviously, startup culture, it's less formal. Um, Startups being smaller companies, they often may not have a person or a procedure to even do something, to perform a particular task. So, or maybe not officially. So, how to decide who has to do or gets to do these unspecified or unstructured tasks is important. Um, Startups tend to be a lot of hard work. People put in long hours. So you need to have a lot of camaraderie in these kind of environments, or else it's just, it's not going to work. You're
When
all
you
kind of
said,
counting. Sorry.
I'm sorry, when you said camaraderie, what do you mean by that? I think that's an interesting word for our
Uh, it's
listeners.
literally like kind of like fellowship or friendship in the workplace.
So you call it camaraderie.
Yes.
Very cool, very cool. So what, like for you personally, would you like prefer to work for a startup? I mean, did you like working? You did work, so like, did you like working for a startup or for like big corporation back then and back in the day?
Good question. I mean, there are benefits to both. Startups can be a lot of fun because you're building something new, and as long as people kind of share the same vision, it's great. And you can always create something new, create a new product. You can, as a small, since it's a smaller company, you have more impact on the results of the company and maybe the product. So it can be exciting. Um, the long hours may be a grind after a while. It depends. With in corporate America, it's bigger organizations. You have to rise pretty high in the organization in order to really see the impact of any changes that you might make. So it's very common for people at bigger corporations to say, "Oh, I just feel like a cog in the machine."
What is
A
that?
little,
That's
a
an
little
idiom. That's
gear.
an idiom expert coming right at us. So you said,
Yeah, if you picture a very complicated machine with lots of gears and mechanical parts, you're just a little small wheel on the inside.
so you call it a small cog.
Yeah, COG, cog.
Yeah, cog. Yeah, don't confuse with cog. Yeah, that's
It's like the gear on your bicycle.
Gotcha. That's a good one. That's a good one. So, I understand like working for a startup, maybe like a very enthusiastic for like at the beginning, then it may be like a more of a daily grind. When we talk about working in a big company, so when you worked in a big company, you said pharmaceutical company where you worked for many years, did you have a chance to work with people from different cultures?
Yes, of course. Not at the startup really, but although the founder was German, but everybody else there was American. The larger corporation was multinational. There were people from all over the world.
How did you feel working with people from all over the world? Any like, obstacles or anything like specifically that you remember? Maybe some interesting things?
Well, to work for this company and to work in the head office, you had to have a high level of English.
Okay, so they would not hire someone with a lower level.
No, and the people, all the people that I worked with, and maybe especially the non-Americans, were all highly degreed people. Masters, doctors, PhDs, things like this. So they had studied for a long time, sometimes in the US, sometimes not.
Okay,
So
very
were there gaps in culture communication? Yeah, I think sometimes yes, but I guess it's important in these cases, depending on the person's language level, just to be extremely clear, in your communications with them in terms of what the expectations are. Um, these communications would be a time to avoid things like idioms, to be very literal in your
Yeah,
communication.
when you talk about being clear, I read that American culture of communication. I mean, the book said there's a book. It's called The Culture Map, and the author in the book said that from the like childhood, American moms teach their kids the following thing: tell them or like tell me what you're going to tell me and then tell me what you've told me. So basically the way Americans communicate, and this is a cultural tip, like if you want other people to understand you, you have to clarify, repeat yourself, rephrase yourself, etc., etc. Is that what you mean by saying like you have to be clear in your communication?
Well, the technique that you're talking about, this is a good teacher technique, actually. We refer to this as a content checking question.
Yes, yes.
It could be an instruction uh, checking question too, but you would only use the latter in terms of a supervisor subordinate relationship. You wouldn't do that with a peer or somebody senior, obviously. But in a meeting, it is a common tactic if something, particularly if something complicated or lengthy is being explained or discussed, for your own understanding, you might then choose to speak up and address the original speaker, and say, if I understand correctly, this is what you mean.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, that's a very good sentence here. I like teaching students, I like telling the students that you shouldn't be afraid to clarify and clarify by rephrasing what you have understood. So guys, don't be afraid to clarify. By the way, Chris, that's a very good, I think you are the right person to ask this. A lot of students come to me and they tell me, Anna, like I'm afraid to speak, like I'm afraid to say something in English. I think that people will think that I'm stupid or I'm making too many mistakes, etc. You, as a native speaker, when you talk to other non-native English speakers, do you ever think that they're stupid because they make mistakes?
No, of course not. And anybody that's grown up in business will appreciate the question, because they would much rather have the workers understand what it is that they need to do or what is being decided, as opposed to walking away and wondering and then making mistakes later when they actually have to do the work.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's actually worse if you keep silent and you assume you understand and you do the way you understood and you never, when you're not sure you've understood correctly, then just like asking a question, maybe even making, grammar mistakes when asking this question, or, like nobody, like my point is that, uh, native speakers don't think that it is stupid if non-native English speakers make mistakes speaking English.
No, not at all. We're more pleased with the question. Again, in any serious business, people want to get the work done and they have deadlines. So if you're in a meeting, the whole point is to gain everybody's other understanding, to make
Very
sure that everyone's expectations are the same. So this is the time for questions.
Yeah, so guys, don't be afraid. Ask questions because the questions will help you get the job done on time. Yeah, meeting the deadline. Great. Since we started talking about meetings, meeting is the way is like one of the things that people do regularly to have the job done. But also, emails are, as far as I know, in the States, people use emails. But with in modern world, there are so many messengers and chat rooms, etc. So I wanted to know if email is still big in the corporate America, in the corporate world, in
Yeah,
business.
it's still very big. It's still very big. And it's very important because and different companies have different communication styles, Anna, but still they all use email.
In
So,
America, yeah, yeah.
oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
you prefer to use email every time we communicate for work.
Well, it's important many times for documentation.
Oh, that's right. So, like, keeping track, and especially if you're discussing some work-related things, and in case something happened, you have all the thread of information. What would you say about Slack? Is Slack the new email?
It's not the new email, it is used in addition to email. So many companies will, I mean, they all have email anyway, but they also often will use Slack and have Slack channels for particular small groups, let's say. So if there's just like a little project that only 3 people need to communicate about, the Slack channel might be preferable because it's easier to read through the thread.
Yeah, yeah. Would you also say that email would be preferred on a more formal level of communication, like when you have to email clients? I mean, with tech companies, I know that there are some tech companies that would also have clients in Slack. But I would say that would be smaller companies. But like if you're a bigger corporation, I would assume that on a level like client communication, they would still prefer email, maybe Slack as well. But like you said, smaller chats with certain groups of people. What would you say?
I think that's correct. I think in terms of external communication, um, an email is probably preferable because it is going from your company email to their company email. And this can have legal implications as well. So it's important for it to be as official as you can make it.
Chris, could you give us some tips and tricks on a professional email writing skills? Like, what should people consider when writing emails to make them professional? Some like maybe
Okay.
basic, maybe not basic tips.
Yeah. Well, use a header, use a salutation for one. Let's assume this is the first email in this thread. Use a salutation.
What kind
Use
of
a,
salutation?
well, this is going to depend on how many recipients you have.
Let's say one.
Well, then you would just use the person's name and probably their first name.
Would you say like things like hi, for example, hi Chris or dear Chris? What would you say?
You can actually just get away. You can use dear even in business communication, but probably not. You would probably just use the name.
Yeah, yeah, like Chris, and without even hi or hello. It's is it okay? Just is it enough to say Chris?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Anna. You would in American business, you would not start an email. Hi Anna, hello Anna. Probably not.
Or so we would just say Anna.
Anna, Anna,
Okay.
comma, and then begin the
Comma.
rest of the
Yeah. Yeah, that's very
message.
important. Make sure you use comma after the salutation, after the name, right? Not because in Russian, for example, we use exclamation mark after the salutation. In I know that in English, it is considered a bit aggressive and colloquial, right? When if you use
Yeah, you wouldn't
exclamation,
do that in business here. Yeah, not that, not
not
that.
that. Mhm.
It's possible if you could say hi or hello, but this would have to be a colleague that you know very well and are quite friendly with in order to do it. In general, I wouldn't recommend it because here's an important thing that your listeners need to recall about emails. You want to be very careful and professional what you say in them always because it could always be forwarded to the boss.
Oh
You want
yeah, yeah,
them
yeah.
to read it after you. So if this email gets forwarded around and it goes up the chain and higher, you do not want your boss's boss to be reading some silly message that you wrote in the beginning.
Exactly. Is that related to the acronym CYA?
Partly.
Could you could you tell us about this acronym CYA? I mean, I'm gonna
Oh,
say it first so that you don't feel awkward. It's cover your ass, right? What? How is that related to emailing?
well, it's actually an email negative, unfortunately, but it has some positive aspects too. A CYA email is often sent when you are trying to acknowledge that you know something and that either you have completed a task as agreed or you are reminding someone else more frequently that there is a task that they need to complete. In other words, I told you so, right? Here is the official message. This is documented that there is some work that you need to do, and here is the deadline. So if they then don't later do it, you have cover. You
Okay, you
send
have
the
the
email.
CYA email.
Yes, you can show the boss that you made this directive and the other person did not do it and it's not your fault.
That's very clever. That's very clever. So guys, remember you have to cover your ass in business as well. Right.
Well, the
Um
bad thing is that sometimes people end up sending lots of these emails unnecessarily, or they put everyone and their mother on CC.
Oh my God, that's a good idiom, Chris. Thank you. You are an idiom expert. The put your everyone, everyone and your mother. What was it again?
Yeah, they put everyone and their mother on
And their
CC.
mother. I never heard this one. I know. I could guess the meaning. I think it's pretty
Extra
clear.
people, unnecessary people. If I'm
Yeah,
sending you a business, let's say I wanted you to do some work for me, Anna, and I sent you an email. What's the purpose of me CCing your mother?
exactly.
Yeah,
When
she's
you
not going to
don't even
help me.
have her email, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, with the CC thing, that's well, the CC thing is a problem, but also the reply all button is another problem. There's so many stories where some confidential information was sent to because of the reply all button. So that's another thing that people have to be careful about. Like for example, in tech, most companies they have the salary that like the salary is not should not be discussed like publicly. And I've heard like so many stories from clients when like somebody like HR by mistake send the email to the whole company with the information like a salary information of people there in the company. So that's some can I call them bloopers? And a blooper is something that you would say on TV.
No, this would not be a blooper. Um, it's a mistake, a goof.
Oh, it's a goof. Yeah, that's one. That's
Yeah,
easy to
but
remember too because of the goofy.
you can, but this is not typically used in business. If it's not a very serious thing, you can say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Anna, I goofed. I'll
Okay.
fix it." But if you accidentally sent out the entire list of company salaries to the major distribution, this is not a goof. This is a fuck up.
Yeah, that's a good word. Fuck up, right? Okay. So what else in terms of what other tips do you have for emailing?
Keep it as short as possible.
Oh,
You
that's
can
a good one. Is
Yeah,
that true? Like I usually teach in my emailing workshop, I talk about three things that you should include in your email. This is why you're writing, details, and call to action. What do you want?
yeah, exactly. In other words, what they need to do has to be, if in fact there is something they need to do. Some emails are just informational.
But if
I-
there isn't anything, but if there you don't want the other party to do anything, you should also state it. Like this is just for your information. Like
Yes,
so, you still have to have the closure, as they say, in your emails.
yes, yes. A lot of times it's a back and forth inquiry. You're trying to get some information, or you're trying to maybe learn what information the other party might need. For things that are purely informational, these things perhaps more often come from distribution lists. One of those important times not to hit reply to all.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. So, I wanted also to ask you about um, making small talk in English. I remember my first time in the States, I had a little bit of a culture shock because people wanted to make small talk with me everywhere all the time. And I was like, why do you people like leave me alone? I don't know what I should talk to you about. I don't like why do you want to talk to me so much, honestly. So speaking of small talk in business, how is it important to be able to make small talk in business? What's your
It's
say on
extremely
this one?
important. Extremely important.
Tell me
because
more.
because almost all meetings and conference calls will begin with at least a little bit of this. It's not, especially like, let's say it's an in-person meeting. Forget about Zoom. Pre-COVID, when you get in
Oh,
the
post
room,
COVID.
yeah, it'll come back to a degree. It would not even really be considered polite to jump immediately into business. If the meeting is hosted by one person, they may make some general opening remarks and just say, thanks for coming, how's everybody doing, maybe something like this. But it's even with people that are very senior, whose time is very limited, there's usually a little bit of, what we would say preamble or small talk. Now, it might just be a little bit, a minute worth,
Yeah.
but, uh, you know, how you doing? Nice to see you, blah, blah, blah. How are the kids? Blah, blah,
Oh yeah, that's
something,
my next
something.
question. What do you typically talk about when you have to make small talk in business?
It's really just, it's banal things, just like I said. You keep it very general, not personal, not controversial. Um,
For example, can I talk about family? Like, can I ask about like your family?
it depends on how well you know the person.
Yeah.
Like if it's a person who has children and they frequently talk about their children, then you can say, oh, how are the kids? Or, oh, I know Anna was starting in the swimming club. How's that going?
Very good. I remember when I used to work as a project manager for this American consultancy, and when I was in the States, we went to see the client with the CEO, and the I was surprised to hear that they were talking about. So it was like a pre-Christmas, time, and my boss asked the client what he got his wife for Christmas, and they got into talking about Louis Vuitton bag that he just recently bought for her, and so like they had all this conversation about gifts and the wife, and then I was like, wow, do you talk about that? Like it's quite personal. But I think that my boss back then, he was on a level of like really friendly relationship with the client, and the client really enjoyed this conversation because he felt kind of, as far as I could tell, he felt kind of flattered that like he was asking him about wife, and he really cared about his wife, and he bought this like $100 $1,500 expensive bag, and things like that. So it really depends on how well you know the client.
Agreed.
Yeah, but like it's a must to small talk.
Sports is another good one. It's totally neutral. You can ask, especially if there was an important game. You don't even necessarily have to know if the other people in the room are fans. You could just say, did anybody watch the big game last night? It was really exciting. And maybe somebody will say yes, and you can just chat about that. But, at least in America, there's if it's a meeting with a lot of women, they're not probably going to be big in sports enthusiasts. So
What do you make small talk with women about?
did they watch The Bachelor last night? I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, yeah, The Bachelor. That's very good. Yeah, that's a good one. By the way, I another different thing. I mean, there is another difference between Eastern European way of communication and American way of communication. In America, people pay compliments a lot, even to people they don't know well. For example, every time I go somewhere like to the bank or grocery store, I always get compliments on my fingernails colors or like fingernails. Like American women apparently love my nails. So that's very easy and that's very common with me. So yeah, so people compliment each other a lot. But like in business, how do you make sure you don't like cross the line when you are being like regarded as perceived as sexually harassing someone? Or is that like appropriate in business, if to uh, give compliments as a way to make small talk?
You can, but because we have a somewhat of a problem in the culture of people being too aggressive in this way in the workplace. You can, but you have to do it very cautiously. So if if I wanted to compliment a female colleague, if I thought her clothes were looking really good that day, she's wearing a nice outfit, I could just say something very simple, like, that's a really nice outfit, or, you're looking sharp today, Anna, something like that. And that's it.
Very good. I like your sentence, "you're looking sharp today." When you say you're looking sharp, it means you look very business-like, businessy. What does that mean?
Well, it means that your clothes are well tailored and well styled.
Very good, very good. And I would definitely be happy to get this compliment from you, Chris. You are quite a fashion expert as well as idiom expert. By the way, speaking of being an idiom expert, I want our community to experience what I experience every time I talk to you, because every time I talk to you, Chris, I learn something new. You use idioms in every other sentence. So today, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you to explain some idioms that I have picked. And I want you to explain what they mean so that our listeners and watchers can learn from you. So I have picked the idioms that I think are pretty popular, and you should tell me like if they are actually popular in modern English, because this is what I want to share with the community, right? Modern idioms, it's the things that you actually hear from native speakers. Alrighty, so the first one, it's not rocket science.
This is popular.
What does it mean?
It means that this thing that I'm talking about is not so difficult.
Could you give me an example? How would you use that?
Okay, well, I had one point in my career where I had to train the secretaries how to use a financial computer system, which might sound scary, but it was really not. It was really quite easy. So if they were nervous about learning it, I would say, don't worry, it's not rocket science. You just have to push this button, this button, this button, and you're good.
That's a very good. I love your example. I love this example. I love that the example is about technology. And now I'm pretty sure a lot of tech people would be able to use it. Like next time they are explaining how laptop or something works to their family, it's like, it's not rocket science. You can easily do it. Okay, nice. How about this one? Let's take it offline. I mean, the meaning like can be literal, right? Let's take it offline. But what does it really mean?
It can be because, especially now in the age of Zoom meetings, if you want to discuss, if you're in a group Zoom meeting, but you need to discuss a topic with just one person, yeah, then you need to get offline. You need to get out of the Zoom meeting and only talk to this one person, perhaps on the phone. But the way that it's used in American business traditionally is at an in-person meeting. If the same situation arises where two people out of the group only need to discuss the topic, one of them will probably say, let's talk offline, like not in this room, not now.
Like privately, right?
Yes, because it's a waste of everybody else's time.
Oh, okay, got you, got you. Interesting, interesting. Okay, okay. I have another one prepared here. The low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit.
This is a personally hated one of mine because
Why is that?
it's overused. It's
Oh
over.
yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes when I'm like looking for some interesting information online about idioms, I or interesting words in English, I come across those articles where native speakers actually write those articles where they say like, uh, you have to avoid these words. And then when I read these words, I was like, why would you avoid these words? I mean, they're used all the time, like literally, for example, or basically, things like that. And but these words are pet peeves. Like the other people hate when people use these words because they are overused. So the low hanging fruit is one of those, one of yours. So what does it mean? The low hanging fruit.
The literal meaning is the easiest thing to get. So obviously in a different context, it can have slightly different connotations, but often it's used in terms of sales. In other words, the easiest customers to reach are the low-hanging fruit.
Interesting. Like you're pretty sure that you're gonna sign this customer up, so you would call the customer the low hanging fruit, for
Well,
example.
let's say you have an enterprise scalable product, right? But it's also appropriate for small customers, small businesses, as well as huge companies. And the price for the small companies is $5,000. Maybe that's your software license fee. But the price for an enterprise is $1 million. So the little customer, it's easy for them to pay 5,000. It's great software, right? They all want to use it.
Yeah.
But selling the $1 million product to the big company, this is not low hanging fruit, right? This is the high on the tree fruit, because it's very difficult to even find the correct person in the enterprise who might make such a purchasing decision. And then you have to convince them to part with $1 million for your product.
That's true. Is there like an opposite idiom to the low hanging fruit?
Probably.
Sorry to put you on the spot. That's an idiom. That's an idiom.
Okay, all right, all right. Let me be clear. We do not say the high hanging fruit. Okay, that's not, we can't
Yeah,
say that.
I was kind of like going in that direction, right? Sorry for like putting you on the spot. By the way, guys, to put somebody on the spot is to
Is to focus on them and make a request or ask for some information with no warning.
yeah, it's like spot. You mean I think the idiom spotlight, right? On the stage. Yeah, on the stage. Yeah. Alrighty, I know another idiom. So let me know if it is popular among native English speakers. Cut corners.
To cut a corner is literally a
Oh,
shortcut.
I'm sorry. Is it a cut a corner or cut corners?
Either, it's the same
Either.
meaning.
Okay, because I've only seen it as cut corners. That's
It's
interesting.
more common that way. So to cut corners means to literally not necessarily do all of the work by the book to finish.
Oh my God, there he goes, guys. I told you, go buy the book. This is another idiom. Do you even notice how you use these idioms, in
No,
every
no,
other
actually,
sentence?
if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know it.
Like, we can call you an idiom expert and I'm an idiom police because like I keep noticing where you use those idioms all the time. So buy the book means
Do every step as written in the manual. So if, in other words, if you have a report to run for your boss and they teach you five like quality checks to get to the end and make sure that it's correct. If you're in a rush, you might only do four of the five. That's cutting a corner.
so it's like doing less.
Yes, absolutely. It's doing less than is prescribed.
Interesting. I thought that this idiom could also mean when, let's say you are short, like you're short on money, and in order to survive, or I may be mixing things up here, and in order to survive, like let's say you have like 10 more days till your next paycheck, and in
Mm.
order to like to survive the 10 more days, you have to cut corners. You kind of have to like uh stop spending money the way you.
No, there's another one for that which I can't think of right now because you put me on the spot.
All right, sorry about that. I
Yeah.
think the other one, I may be mixing them up, like live hand to mouth, something like that.
Okay, that's similar to what you're talking about, but this is tends to be used in a more extended circumstance.
Oh,
So
okay.
living hand to mouth means that you just barely have enough money and resources to survive and no extra. So
Yeah.
literally, you get the money, you buy your food, and that's all gone. You get the money, you pay your rent, and nothing left.
Yeah, so you're living hand to mouth. You have
Yeah.
you have enough to feed yourself. That's basically it.
Wait, I got another one for you. Let's go back to cutting corners.
Yes, let's do it.
So we also say, if you are not cutting corners, you say dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
Wow, with dot all the I's and
No, not
cross.
I, the letter I.
Oh, dot all the I's and cross all
Yes.
the T's.
Yeah.
Oh, which means
If you're writing very quickly, you might not make the dot on your letter I. So it
okay,
means
so
be
like you're
very
not.
particular and do it exactly correct.
I think in Russian we have sort of like similar idiom when
Mhm.
we say put the dots on the I's. Yeah. Is that how
Mhm.
you say it in English too?
Yeah, yeah. Dot
Hmm.
all the I's and cross all the T's. In other
Yeah.
words, don't write so fast that you make little mistakes in the writing that, if you failed to do this, you could still read the document, but it would not be perfect.
Got you. That's a very good one. That's a very good one. Again, when I used to work as a project manager, I heard our sales team use this word. It's not an idiom, I think it's just a verb to schmooze a client or
Mm,
schmoozing a client.
yes.
What is that?
Schmoozing, which is a slang word, by the way. It might actually come from Yiddish. I'd have to check.
I think so. It sounds like it.
Okay. So schmoozing is, we could say it's friendly banter, but with an end goal in mind. You're usually trying to make a sale or convince somebody of something when you are schmoozing them. Not just to like you, but there's an end to the means.
So can we say that every good salesman should know how to schmooze the
Yeah,
client?
pretty much. Yeah, you should, because a lot of sales is overcoming objections. And furthermore, people will tend to buy things from you if they like you. If
I
they
think
don't
this
like
is
you,
the
they're
only
probably
way
going to
people
buy.
buy things from you these days. Yeah, this is the only way people want to buy something. Absolutely. Like this is why we like now we live in the era of personal branding. That's why people take care of their personal brand because they want people to buy from them and not from companies like it was what was like 30 years ago, 25 even years ago. Schmoozing. Yeah. I also heard them again, back to my sales team when I worked in the States. I also heard the sales team say schmoozing and massaging clients. And I was like, what do they actually mean by massaging? We're like, because the sales guy would always say, hey, Sean, you need to massage him first. I was like, is that going to a massage salon? So what is
No.
massaging?
Okay. What happens if you go to a massage salon? How do you let's put it this way. How do you feel? Let's even begin at the beginning. Why go to a massage salon?
To relax.
Yeah, you feel tense, right? And when you come out, how do you feel?
Relax.
Yeah, you feel good. You're happy, right? You might even go get some ice cream.
Or happy ending. Just kidding.
So yeah, you're in a better mood. You're feeling good when you leave the massage place. So you're more likely to say yes to things.
So if like in business you use the word a massage in business, like massage clients, you mean that you have to work with their objections, release their tensions, and make them happy, or like convince them in buying something, or maybe like if the client is not happy about something that you are delivering at this point, you can massage the client by like making like relaxing him,
Mhm.
whatever.
All of those things, right? If let's use your last example. If you sold a software product to a client and they're having difficulty with it, they're probably not going to be very happy, right? But maybe the reason why they're having difficulty is they are making mistakes. They forgot the training, something is going wrong. Maybe their in-house IT people didn't set it up correctly. There could be a configuration problem. So they're calling you, the salesperson, and they're a little bit pissed off, right? You want to massage them, and you don't say, hey, screw you, I sold it. Have a nice day, right? You want to find out why they're upset and kind of, talk them down, talk them off the ledge.
Oh my God, there he goes again. Talk them off the ledge means
to
calm them down.
get them not to commit suicide.
Oh,
You
oh, oh, okay.
get,
That's
get
cool.
them get them to calm down, right? Because if they're really upset and you don't fix the problem, one of two things will happen. They'll never buy from you again, or maybe they'll even try to cancel the contract that you have. So
Yeah.
you
You
want to
need definitely massaging is a great skill to like figurative massage. Figuratively, yeah. Massaging people figuratively, like you don't have to touch anyone. That's forbidden. Yeah. Alrighty. That's awesome. Chris, I have one more idiom before we wrap up. The bottom line. The bottom line. I know this idiom is popular. I hear it all the time. What does it mean?
well, the literal, it began from the P&L, profit and loss statement, right? Every business has a P&L. The last number on the page is what is your profit or your loss? How much money did you make or lose? So we use this more broadly now to mean the end result. What is the last meaning here in the context? So we might have like a 2-hour meeting um, about our sales strategy. But at the end, the sales director will say, the bottom line is, guys, we need to increase by 20%. So do it however you can.
Is it like eventually?
Not exactly. Not exactly. It's literally the net result,
The
right?
next most important thing,
No,
like
net
result.
net result, NET, not
Mhm.
next, net. So it's kind of like in one sense, it's what has to be done. It also might be the absolute result, like there's nothing left.
Okay, okay, very good, very good. Alrighty, that was very good, Chris. I totally enjoyed our conversation. I actually learned some new idioms as always. That's why I just love our conversations here. Anything else you would like to say to our English for IT community who are here to learn and improve their English and soft skills to excel in their tech careers?
They've got to talk.
Oh
Don't get
yeah, that's a very good one. They gotta talk.
yeah, that I can't tell you. There's so many people that our students that I've had, they're just afraid of speaking up. You can't be afraid. You have to be willing to be a beginner. You have to be willing to make mistakes. It's not a big deal. People are not really going to judge you for this. They might help you correct a little bit, but in general, they just want to understand what you're saying. They don't really care that you have an accent or anything like this.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important what you just said, because as I like to tell my students, tell our students, that people don't think about your mistakes. They just listen and trying to understand what you're saying, and they're not focusing on your mistakes, because only us, who the speakers, we are focusing on our mistakes because we are focusing on ourselves. And people who are listening to us, they just want to understand what you're saying, what you're telling them. So that's it. Chris, thank you so much. That it's been pleasure. We should do it again. I think our idiom expert, I think students will totally love if we have the idiom expert show on English for IT TV.
Oh, maybe.
Well, okay, that sounds promising. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, enjoy sunny LA.
I will.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.